No, yes.
There.
There you
Okay.
are.
Okay.
Okay.
We were at,
We were just describing father and mother and their reaction to the whole thing. Mother was sort of excited about it, and she really was expecting to have a big wedding. We didn't have a big engagement party or anything like that. We just kind of announced it. And I went back to college with a ring on my finger. And
Is that your last year? Your senior
Yeah.
year of college?
that was my last year. And Dean had already finished college, and he had
I was at law school.
law school, right?
I was off at Harvard.
Well, I guess you were going back to Harvard then, for the spring term.
were you in your first year at Harvard?
Second year,
Second?
because we had just one together.
Mhm.
And then you were born that year.
Right.
Rewind, let's go back though. Weddings, so the wedding you put together was really something your mom wanted?
Uh-huh. And she made the invitations. I picked my bridesmaids, and I had my sister and Dean's sister, and then there was how many, whatever, there were one or two people who came who weren't in the whole thing, but not too many. It was a long way to go from Vassar or from the east at that time. And it was a pretty June day, and we got married and took off
And you were
without the key.
What happened?
Without the key.
Without the key to the luggage. So,
Great.
so you can picture this one. Here comes this guy carrying a bunch of bags into a hotel, a nondescript hotel, an old-time, old-fashioned
It was
hotel.
a real falling down place.
in Lorain, Ohio. Oh, at the industrial edges of Cleveland, and
No, it was not on the edges, it was a couple of hours drive away.
no, well, it was a ways away, and there we get with the baggage, and I, who had been temperate and moderate about the whole wedding and reception, and let the other people drink and eat and have a festive time of it. I was all business. I was taking this woman off as my wife, and we were headed all the way out to Banff and Lake Louise by car, and we were going to have a bunch of days together and nights and all of that. And then you can't get the bag open. You can't even start the ball rolling. And
Oh, it's so embarrassing. But I didn't have any control over any of this. I mean, I was left behind. My keys were somewhere else. Nobody put them in my purse or did anything to organize things for me. And I didn't even have access to that. It was packed up and sent to the church, and that's why I got dressed afterwards. And who knows where anything was.
So your friend saved the day, drove out, gave you the key.
Dean's sister and his former roommate at Dartmouth came. They sort of were interested in each other for a little while, but then that
they
didn't
were
work
quite
out.
interested in each other for a while.
Uh-huh. He was a nice guy. And Vonnie was a beautiful guy.
He was a nice guy. He was president of our class, a junior 5'8", and he would end up going over to Kenya with on international programs. He was just a marvelous, public-spirited guy, but he went and lived in these awful places in Africa.
It was the new economics. You know, you figure out how to give the money to the people who are going to make use of it, as opposed to the husbands who are going to drink it.
He was way in the early days of this idea of mini loans
Okay,
to many people. Give them just a little bit of seed money and they'll figure out how to do it. Don't you do it for them.
Right.
And I just admired him immensely. He and I had traveled around by car out west and went to, before we married.
Couple summers
He and
before.
I took one summer representing our fraternity at a national convention that was held in Colorado and at Estes Park.
Oh, yeah.
And then we went to all the parks out and around. We went up from Calgary and Banff in Alberta down to
Glacier?
New Mexico and the Pueblos. And we just had a great summer of it together.
I think Bonnie was not interested in getting married to somebody who was gonna take her to the hovels of Africa.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was probably a large part of it.
My
She was-
sister was the antithesis of me. She was very big in good manners and decorum.
Mm-hmm.
And had she been a male, she would have asked for this one's hand. But I was the guy.
She married Dean's Harvard roommate, the one who's 6'9",
Oh.
and he was not a stable kind of guy. He never even worked, I think, as far as I know.
Right.
So she would have been much better off with Hooper, but
I think she did a better job of vetting you than I did a job of
Yes.
vetting for her.
yeah, she invited me to Lake Placid,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew it was what it was because it was that same winter after we'd agreed to get married, and I decided she's gonna check me out, and if I don't behave myself, she's gonna find a way to cut this thing off. So I behaved myself, and we did have a good time, but I was very much aware. She was elegant. She had perfectly groomed fingernails and hands, and they were beautiful, like her mother's. And she was not the Queen of the May at Hathaway Brown. She was 1 year ahead of me at the school we went to, but she was one of the attendants. So when I don't know, we had Flower Girls and Queen of the Mays, and I don't know what all stuff like that. I didn't really have much use for it, but it was sort of a big thing to be chosen. And she had this beautiful red hair, and she was just a gorgeous, elegant person. And graceful, although a little bit on the big side to be graceful. She was not thin. Well, she was thin, but she was not petite. She was a big girl.
Right.
So,
She had the little, tall, lean figure
Yeah.
of models.
Right. And she was a model for a while until she
Yeah.
became.
really?
Yeah,
Mhm.
she became a buyer for Bunwood Teller and worked in New York City for a while.
It's very glamorous.
Yes, it was.
So, after you guys got married, what did you you guys do? Did you find an apartment together, or you guys went to Cambridge, right?
He'd already found the apartment before he left Cambridge the year before, and it was.
Right.
I came up and met the
Lady
man
of the house.
and she was formidable. She was little, petite, and everybody told me who knew anything about them. This had
Mhm.
been a standard place to have honeymoon couples. That you gotta really watch out for T.R. Powell. He's scary. Well, he didn't scare me at all, but she did. And she died before I got there in the fall.
There was
And-
always one senior at the law school who got this slot to live with the professors on the professor's third floor.
It was like a Charles Adams house. It looked like
Big,
one.
big sweeping front porch that wrapped around, and he'd position himself right there in the middle, and I'd go by with a lawnmower in the
And
in the
he'd lecture.
summertime, and he'd be lecturing me.
Solecism and solipsism. You better know things like that, or you're
Okay.
practically get kicked out of Harvard.
Is this true, Gramps? You needed to know this stuff?
Yeah, Solecism and solipsism,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was one of his lectures.
Yeah, Solecism, that got around to his notion that we so often misplace the word in the sentence. I only want to be with you. Well, what you really mean is I want to be only with you. And the want, that that shouldn't be modified by only. So,
Want lots of
so
things.
It's
These were-
logical.
Alright.
these are just marvelous conversations we'd have, and then when you came along, he was just delighted by that time, and he'd cuddle you in his arms, he'd hold you in his arms.
And
And-
what it reminded him of when his wife had died, you know, just a few months before. And here was a new little baby, and I don't think he had any grandchildren yet, or maybe not. And we had a TV so big. And he didn't have a TV. So he would come up to watch the wrestling.
Boxing.
Boxing.
Well, it was wrestling too, plenty of it. But anyway, he liked to watch the sports, and he'd come up and then he'd hold you in his arms and he'd say, well, at least you were born in the cradle of culture.
Alright.
It was the one thing that he could say about it, because he knew by that time that we were headed back to Cleveland or something.
Okay. So how long did you stay in Cambridge? Just until Gramps finished?
Actually, before he finished, because he got
Stomatitis.
like blisters
Herpes.
all over his mouth,
Ah.
and he had exams coming up, and Liz was not terribly cooperative about it.
Not a good sleeper.
Well, I'd been told in no uncertain terms that you stick to the exact schedule,
Yeah.
and no changing and no anything. And so we went through dinner after dinner. 6 o'clock was way too soon to feed her. And as far as Liz was concerned, it was definitely time, and she was gonna let me know until I'd feed her. So we walked the floor, we rocked, we did all kinds of things. She wouldn't be happy with anything but her dinner. And she'd been trained in the hospital. I was in the hospital 10 days
Why?
because I had a doctor who believed that you didn't get out of bed and you didn't sit on the edge of the bed for a week. And when you finally got up out of bed, you tottered around and then you went right back to bed. And you didn't get up in the middle of the night to feed the baby. They'd take care of that. She would be trained, and by the time we got home,
So I'd get the baby and bring the baby in to be nursed.
Alright.
well, but
Good,
it was...
good thing to be doing at night.
Well, anyway, it was too much. He had this other health problem, and he had studies and exams to pass. So I bundled up Liz and came home, and he came home afterwards, and then he had to study for the bar exams, and
Yeah.
it was a whole stuff to go do. But I stayed at our house, and then when Dean came, we moved over to Dean's house, and then pretty soon there was a problem there, and we moved back to my house.
What
I
kind
don't
of
remember
problem?
what the problem was, but
There was a
something
problem everywhere I turned.
yeah. Dean's mother was a little unhappy about something. I think she wanted us to do something that I didn't want to do. I don't remember what it was.
Well,
Anyway,
she was pretty bossy. Among other things, she wanted to make sure that one didn't come out a lefty.
oh yeah, nobody.
Heaven forbid.
Right. In fact, you never hand anything to a baby except to its right hand. And I did it by mistake a couple of times, and boy, did I get a scolding. Well, in those days, there was only one thing you did with left-handers. You put them in a seat with a chair with a right arm, and they had to write as best they could like that. Awkward and terrible. But you weren't supposed to have any lefties. So I'm sure she trained it out of Dean. He was ambidextrous.
Right.
Craig
I was
didn't know
as much-
what was right and left until about first
Right.
grade. And he was on the phone and he was trying to dial an old rotary dial. And he was so angry, he was frustrated, he couldn't get that dial around, his finger would slip, and so I said, Craig, try your left hand. It was a dream. He didn't have any trouble at all.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
knew that, but she wasn't around, or she would have been a fit. That was when we were back somewhere.
It was very difficult, what I've been calling the cultural gap between Betty's father and me existed also between the two families. Betty's family, I considered cultured,
He was overimpressed,
and,
that's all.
but they were, but belonged to the country club set and a whole societal level that was alien to me and to my family. I grew into it such as I did. I mean, to the extent I learned a little bit in the course of the early days of our marriage, but it was clear that if we stayed in Cleveland, we were going to be jerked around back and forth, and you were just,
A problem.
you were a problem.
Lefty, you cry.
and
Well, we finally fed her, but it was a case of one day of the weekend with one set of grandparents, and the other day of the weekend with the other set of grandparents. We didn't have any time of our own.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was
Sounds exhausting.
very difficult.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it, and Dean didn't like it, and Dean's mother loved having babies around. My mother didn't know what to do with a baby until she could talk to it and read to it and discuss things with it.
that's right.
And so there were toys at her house, and Mother didn't have any toys. If we wanted toys, we'd bring our own. And it was just, yeah, everything was a funny mix.
Yeah, I thought that was marvelous. My
Yeah.
mother wanted to manage the very dickens out of our marriage and out of our raising of the child.
Yeah, she was that way with all of them.
And your mother was just delighted that someone was taking care of her.
Well, no, but she just didn't know what to do with them. And she did, I don't think she really did much in the way of entertaining when I was little. She read to me, and when we got a little older, we'd play games. But as a toddler, you know, Mother reasoned.
Doesn't work with toddlers.
It just didn't happen around Mother with a 2-year-old. So I don't know, it just wasn't easy, and we were really thrilled to get out of town and